Hello, hello, and welcome to Thursday mornings at 11 o'clock, which is Qualified Tutors Love Tutoring Conversations. It is our live streamed conversation that is open minded and open hearted, exploring what tutoring looks like and hopefully pushing the thinking forward together. If you are watching us on LinkedIn, awesome, welcome. It's the qualified tutor members here in this room. If you want to join us, please do go to qualifiedtutor.org, book in for a chat, and I will let you know how you can get in this room the next time. If you are following on YouTube or Spotify, the message is the same. It is much, much more wonderful to join the conversation and to listen to it. And if you want to know more about that, go to qualifiedtutor.org and book in a discovery call. Right, that's as much as sales as I know how to do. But let's get started. So the theme today is it occurred to me as I was planning our topic for today that we're pretty much halfway there, whatever that means. Yeah, we're pretty much at the midpoint in the year. Um, the young people who are hurtling towards exams are feeling intense momentum right now. The little people who are in the classrooms, happy or less happy, have a sense that summer holidays are nearly here, which usually is a good thing. And the teachers have a feeling of I've had these children in my class for long enough now that I know who they are, and I have a sense of whether or not I'm helping them. The parents are and I really, really don't want to come across as in any way negative or disparaging, but I think the parents are beginning to get exhausted by this stage of the year. The hope of starting a new year group and what that's going to be for the children passes. And the sense that are things different? Are things different this year? Are things better this year? Either they are, or by this point, they'll be reaching out to a tutor or hoping for the additional help. I just had a meeting with somebody who is running a session called uh, How to Help Your Rebellious Teenager. Now, for me, the word rebellion, and probably everybody in this room agrees, the word rebellion is problematic. It's old fashioned. It assumes that there's a right way, and they are rejecting it. And we in this room don't tend to believe that there's one right way. There's lots of right ways, and all we want for our young people is to find that right way. But I think what I want to point to before I open up the discussion about how's your year been is that we are at a midway point, and we tend to talk about the year at beginnings and at ends. And I thought it was quite interesting to take stock in the middle and say, what does it look like? How does it compare to this time last year? In my own practice, in the lives of my students, in the life cycle of the families, um, how am I feeling about it all? And what do I need to do next? Where's the learning? So let's start with that first bit of what does it look like right now and how does it compare to last year? James, can I start with you?
So it's this year so far. If I compare it to last year, I'm definitely in a better place. I'd say I'm in a better place myself with my health and my well-being. And my tutoring's in a better place just from gradual resource building, um, gradually doing the hard work behind the scenes and also refining my techniques as well. And taking great advice from people in the room like yourself and Dee as well. Um, that's that's where I'd say I'm at
Yeah, I had
in
an
this
instinct
setting.
that that was pretty much true. That, you know, where you said my health and my well-being is better than it has been, you sort of got to be in quite a good place to be able to ask the question, how am I doing? Do you know what I mean? When you're really, really not doing well, you can't even talk about it. You just have to
Mhm.
plod through. So there's a lot of learning in this midway between I'm not there, but I also know where I'm going to get even better. Do you have a sense, James, of what better would look like?
Um, I, better. I do. I'd say I'd have a sense, but I think sometimes if you focused on too much, what will be better, and you don't enjoy the now, then I think you'll be disappointed. There's a saying, don't meet your heroes. Um, and
Unless they're D,
sometimes,
in which case meet them afterwards.
yeah, yeah. But sometimes I feel like that for me is like sometimes will it be better if you do this, that, and the other, or is it you've got to think about the now?
So
That's
beautiful, so healthy. And it feels like a very, I'm looking out my window and I can see the tulips are just appearing. And that sense of, being in the now feels very lovely right now, actually, doesn't it?
it does. And sometimes you think when you do, I have achieved things in the past. When you do it, you think, oh, everything will be perfect, and then you're like, oh,
Once I'm married, it'll
I've
be easier. That's a good
yeah.
one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Once they can walk themselves to school, it'll be easier. MJ, where are you up to?
I think I had a pretty horrendous year last year,
Yeah.
with various things that were out of my control, mainly a car. Um, I do know where I'm going. I just need to do it. Um, so it comes down to marketing social media. Um, I'm still doing my SEN work with local authorities. The children there seem to be a bit more difficult into, I don't know whether that's cost cutting. So we're looking at um, it's only the ones that are desperate that are coming through. Um, I have taken on some A level work, which is I'm at the bottom of the learning curve, but I'm enjoying it. Um, so I would like some more GCSE work, but that's up to me. So, and I know what to do. I've been shown some work with one of our colleagues, Emma Harper, which is has been invaluable. And I also got a kick this morning when I went to my networking meeting, and one of my colleagues there showed me again how simple it is to do. My next step is to get certified with you, and that's me. I've got all this stuff. I'm just waiting for two students to fill in my thank you. And I had absolutely amazing review from a South Korean that I tutor. It's unbelievable. I didn't expect it to be so good. So yeah, I'm
Wonderful.
really chuffed about that. But admin has always been my downfall. But you know what? I've just got to suck it up and do it.
So, although, oh, sorry, I'm not going to solutions right now, but I'm happy to talk about that with you another time. I want to hold on to that phrase that you said a few times. I know what I need to do. You said, I know where I'm going and I know what I need to do. And I'm sort of thinking about this, like, this March midway point as the Wednesday, the hump day. Do you know what I mean? And to be at a point where I know what I need to do sort of gives me an image of Mary Jane hurtling in her new car forward into the future with
That'd be very
confidence and a sense
difficult
of
to
purpose.
hurtle in my
Was
new
that?
car, but I know what you mean. Yeah,
Is that a sort of slow little, a poodle rather than a hurdle. But either
yeah,
way, the sense of I know what I need to do and I know where I'm going is a very, very strong and lovely and reassuring and unstressful place to be.
yeah. I'm also
Yeah.
sort of gearing towards Monday when I present to you. That's the big thing where it all finishes.
So that's the
Um,
level 3 award
yeah,
that MJ's been
yeah,
working towards for yonks.
Yeah,
And she's got a presentation coming up on that.
yeah, yeah. So,
Fantastic. Dee, where are you up to and how's it been? 2025, tell me.
Wow. Well, this time last year, I was just embarking on the ECA Elite Diploma.
Yes.
Um, so in a yeah, I was stressed because I wondered if I'd taken on too much, and I was
He
learning
was
how to
supportive.
coach, and
Yeah.
yeah. Um, um, I was just looking in my calendar. I think I didn't have quite as many duties this time last year, but it was varying quite a bit week to week because of the nature of the tuition that I was doing. But today I feel very comfortable work-wise. I'm busy. Um, I did a discovery call yesterday. Someone who found me through my Facebook page messaged me because when she clicked on the book a discovery call link, there was no scheduled time in there because I am officially full. So she messaged saying, yeah, and I said, yes, I will have space, but not until after the GCSEs are done. Um, so well, I've got nothing to lose. I'll do the
Dare I
discovery
say,
call.
is that a waiting list, my darling? Are you at waiting list? We love getting to waiting list. That's one of our moments.
So we had the discovery call, went really well. She's local, so she will be coming to my house. What filled me with the most joy was that the mum asked all the right questions about me, asking about me and being, DBS checked and all the rest of it.
She's your
So
DBS.
so I was able to send her my qualified tutor directory link, which showed all that certification stuff. And it was a really good call. And so potentially I am taking on a year seven.
Oh, how lovely.
Ha- Having said that, because I lose 5 or 6 year 11s this year, and I wasn't going to fill those slots because I want to do more with my coaching. But when the universe presents these opportunities, and Um, she's at a selective school. She's at a grammar school in Portsmouth, but and she's had uh, online tuition, which has had some real person input as well from year 4 or 5, I think. But she's because of what the student and the mum feels that she needs. I feel it's a good fit, so I want to help.
Yeah. And it sounds to me like you might keep that student for quite a few years.
Yeah, which is
What's that?
not as much of a focus for me because, as we all know, I had a big birthday a couple of weeks ago.
Oh
And
no, you're not going anywhere.
but if I can go on helping people, helping students, helping young people be better versions of themselves, both academically and personally, why wouldn't I do it?
Yeah, I'm going to reflect some stuff back to you.
And my husband did say we
Uh,
had a conversation. I did say my husband had I had told him this, but he heard it from a friend who was staying with us that I was not going to fill the slots made freed up by the year 11s this year for various reasons. And he then looked me in the eye and said, "But you're really good at what you do, and you help a lot of people. So go on doing it."
what would you be doing instead? What could you be doing that would be better?
Um, well, it would give me space to go back to some things that I've had not been able to do for some years. Like, although I'm not sure going back and playing golf would be that good for my mental health on reflection. But perhaps it would give me space to dabble a bit more with my art that has had to very much sit on the back burner. And I want to get more involved at church. There are roles that I would like to get involved in at church that I just can't commit to at the moment. That would just be bonkers. So there are things I could fill it with, but doing what I do on a daily basis with my students fills my joy bucket. It
Delicious.
just does. And I know I'm
Um,
making a difference.
Absolutely delicious. But I'm actually really glad that I asked you what else would you be doing, because I think that it's really, you know, maybe you'll dial tutoring down and church up next year, and maybe you have the freedom to do that. And how awesome is that? To me, it's palpable, the watching of D. The growth of D is a very, very wonderful thing. The coaching training was a game changer for you.
Mm, mm,
Um, and I'm not joking when I say there's a life cycle in tutoring. And waiting lists is a moment, and when you start supporting other tutors, other adults, is a moment. And this sense of progression, I think, is one of the things that I really want to point to here. James, I can see that you have your thinking face on when I was talking about life cycles. What does it sound like to you?
Well, I guess you've got different life cycles, haven't you, in things, and you've got your own self as you've got your own self as a life cycle, sort of being a kid, growing up. I think in tutoring, though, I would say it's to do with um, the energy you have to do it, and what you
Yeah.
want to input. Um, and it's the technology as well. How I guess we are in a cycle now where we've sort of from COVID, we're in the start of a new cycle with technology and making it more accessible for people to start tutoring and get into that. Um, but it's the cycle of growth in terms as well, I'd say, in terms of starting out yourself. And what I'm looking to do is also manage more people in that.
Oh,
I want to grow into that. Um, so I'd say that's my sort of version of the cycle.
yeah. I think that's really, really helpful, because that piece around I want to manage other people, D, you've never said that, you know. But James is at a different stage of life. Um, and, I mean, unless he's using a lot of oil of Ulay. And and so you have this sort of sense that, what else can I do, right? MJ, can I come to you now and ask you where you think you are in your life cycle as a tutor?
Um, I was looking back and reflecting is the word, and thinking how bad some of my tuition was compared to what it is now, but also thinking, I've prepared all my GCSE resources and thinking, yeah, well, I actually need to revamp some of them. And I've always thought I want to be just an independent tutor, but that might not, I haven't actually formed a concrete plan, but I'm not putting that out of my remit. So once I've sorted all of my marketing out, that might be a possibility, that I would do that.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm glad you said the word possibility. There's a real sense of possibility in the way you're speaking today.
yeah, I've sort of given myself, come on, you've got to do the admin has always been my downfall. I'm dreadful at it.
Okay,
Um,
I have to just put it out there. There are VAs who work for not a lot of money, who eat for breakfast the tasks that intimidate you.
yeah, yeah. And I've got enough contacts within my network to be able to do that. So yeah, you're right, absolutely. Um,
If you want to talk to me about it, I've got somebody available at the moment who's absolutely a darling, and knows tutoring inside out. So I'd be happy to put you in touch if you want.
yeah, no, I think that is a good idea because it's really stupid what I need to do. Um, it's not rocket science, shall we say? So
And
yes,
the
it is a
funny thing is, you're
possibility.
much better at rocket science, aren't you? We
Um,
need to know what we're good at.
Yes, I am. And I get bored very easy, so it's boring work. So um, when you
Speak the same
mentioned the
language.
course in September, I thought, yeah, that's something I'd like to do because I like studying. So I like
Yes.
doing new things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So get yourself a VA and come on the course instead. That sounds like a lot more fun.
yeah,
I was going to separate this hour into what does 2025 feel like for us right now? And what does it feel like for our students and the people around them? So that's their families, it's the schools, it's, James mentioned tech. I think that talking about AI and how it's defining change at the moment. Um, Also, what's going on in the world. We don't talk about politics here, but we do recognize that it is a very disrupted time in the global stage. Um, let's dig into that a little bit and say and explore. Do you know that we're 5 years from the first lockdown? This
yeah.
week was apparently the 5 year anniversary.
Mm,
I knew that you knew that, Dee.
23rd of March is etched in my, well, the Friday before the Monday is etched in my memory when I was sat in my office looking at everything, thinking, what do I need to take home in order to be able to continue what I do, not here. And it was a weird that this is the weirdest thing, just throwing things into bags and taking them home, just bonkers.
No, I often think about that. Well, firstly, when I left my office, I said to my colleague, we shared a teeny tiny office together. And I said to her, if we don't use this time to make things better, then we've missed a trick. And in fact, that's when I really paid attention to qualified tutor for the first time and really built it up and launched the first courses. And I hope that has been making things better. But there's really a sense that that was an opportunity. COVID. It was for many. You often hear this uh, polarization between people saying it was the worst thing that happened to them and it was the best thing that happened to them, in terms of new opportunities and pivoting and all of those things. But I don't want to dive into COVID today. I do want to dive into what does the world look and feel like for our young people and the people around them.
It's scary and overwhelming. Um, and I'm seeing quite a lot of tired students now for all sorts of reasons, whether they're year sevens, eights, or tens, elevens. And I think it is this halfway point in the year that um, it's not as long. It is quite a long term. This one, Easter's quite late. Um, but I'm yeah. I'm also seeing some really really lovely things happening with my students. The things that they're engaging with. Um, so uh, and I empathize so much with them because I struggled so much as a teenager, and I see these young people dealing with a world that is so different from the world that I was a teenager in. And I am in awe of how they cope with it.
Coping. And we know that CAMS is overwhelmed. We know that, in EHCP, it'll take you 18 months to get once get the paperwork together. We know that we know that mental health and depression and anxiety are at an all-time high internationally. Are they coping?
Probably not, probably not, but I only have a window into their lives for 1 hour once a week. So I'm seeing a very limited view of them. Um, and with the ones I've been working with for 2 or 3 years, and they are mainly not in the UK, they're overseas. So it is a different dynamic that they're exposed to. But I had a home ed student. She'd been out of school since
Home
last
education is on the rise.
January,
Yeah.
February. And I've tried to support the mum as much as I have the young person, and tried to connect her with people who I know could help. Um, but it got to a point where I'd taken the horse to water and nothing much more was happening, and now I'm not working with a young person anymore. Mum's got is so challenged by what's going on. She's not seeing that, and I suspect she's kind of backing away now from this sense that she has to do GCSEs this year. That it's actually not a thing that she has to do just because she's in that year group. Um, Another young person I work with who was off school for a bit is back in school now. And I am concerned about her, but I can see that she's really well supported by her parents. Her friendship group is really good. She seems to be being supported by the school. But I am still concerned that they think she can sit a higher tier paper, and she's asking me to help her with some of the more challenging material when I can see gaps. So I'm a little bit frustrated that there is limited things that I can do. I'm trying to comply with their requests, um, but I can see that there's other things I could do. But I think my sense is trying to push that is actually going to make matters worse, not better. So I'm just going with the flow. She's happy with what we're doing. I'm meeting most of her needs, and it's a bit of a compromise, but I'm okay with it.
Sounds really, really interesting. So we one of our members, Lucy, put in the chat earlier this week, and I'm just about to publish a blog that she wrote for us on the subject of she was working with a student and all these different things in terms of the parents and the students' engagement were problematic. But she was absolutely centered and knew how to respond to those problems and knew what was and what wasn't for her to take on. Um, and she finished it off by saying, and she left on time. She didn't overspill beyond the boundaries of her role. So I'm hearing in the way you're describing things that there's a sort of sense of, I know I can help. I know what the remit is. I'm seeing more than you might expect from meeting a child in a box once a week. I don't mean a box, I mean a screen. Um, and yet, maybe there's some thinking around, we know with therapists, there's always a sense of distance and there's always a sense of boundaries. And maybe that's something that we need to understand. As you were discussing, I'm worried about my young people. I was thinking to myself, the needs are escalating, and so are our skills in responding to them. Because actually, in this community, our language around mental health and well-being has never been as refined and defined. And our language around how tutoring can make a difference to life outcomes is really, really strong. There's a real sense of how we help our young people. I also feel from what you've described that your young people are grateful to have you, which is a far cry from
Yeah.
I got a tutor. I can't play football. I got a tutor. Or the NTP. They've given me a tutor because I'm the one that needs it. Or the shame of I've got to go out with a tutor. Or the that sort of privilege angle of I've got a tutor. This is very, very much my tutor is here for me and helps me. And that's really beautiful. MJ, I know that that's what you do for a living. Do you want to talk a little bit about where your young people are up to?
Um, well, a lot of them are out of school at the moment. With my ones that don't have special educational needs, they are very grateful um, for the tuition. When you were talking about how stressed they are in terms of what's going on in the global stage, some of them are not stressed because they're not aware of what's happening, and some are. Some, and obviously they're Generation Z, and I have quite long conversations, particularly with one of them who seems to know exactly what's going on, not what the BBC are necessarily telling us. So that's quite interesting. I think, and their stresses come from social media if they are on it, rather than what's going on with what's happening politically. Um, so I don't know if that helps. I might have steered the conversation in a slightly different way.
No, not at all. Those are exactly the things that are touch points in our children's lives right now. Social media and what it's feeding them, querying which media they're getting their information from. All of those things are very, very relevant, especially in terms of critical thinking, and what AI is feeding them, and the algorithms. We say yes to cookies all day long because it feels quicker than not saying yes to cookies, and because they're called cookies. But in fact, that's totally changing the information that's coming to us.
Mm. No, it's frightening. Um, I'm going to mention this. Okay, it's the series on Netflix with adolescents. I don't know if you've ever seen
Unbelievable.
it.
Hold on, James D, have you seen Adolescence?
I
I
am
haven't.
I am seeing so many references to it now. I'm feeling I need to go and see it.
Yeah,
It
I watched
is
it last week.
it is amazing, actually.
Oh,
Um,
it's that the one where the with the murdering.
yeah, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
all right, and as adults, it just brought home to me really that we actually know nothing about the social media that's going on with kids. It was so well done. It's very dark, but it really it just indicated that we don't know. So we don't know a lot of the pressures that these kids are that our kids are under, um, and that is frightening. It really is. So we don't know the motives as to why they behave, and I believe it is totally indicative. It's not an alone story. Obviously, it was quite radical as to what he did in this particular story, and it is fictional, but I think the thought patterns are fairly typical. So you're nodding your head, Julia. So
Oh, I totally agree with you. And I think
You're muted, Julia.
I know because I haven't got the hang of my new laptop. It's probably better anyway, isn't it? Um, I think you're absolutely right to have brought adolescence into the conversation right now. I also think that this piece must have been written and produced last year or the year before for it to be visible to us now. And there's something about, how I said, you've got to be in quite a good place to be able to reflect on where you are. In the same way, the fact that Adolescence, which is a really well produced series, is now in our consciousness means that this has been going on behind the scenes for years before we get to talk about it here today. We're mass media, aren't we? In this context, we're not the niche. We're not the people who see these things first. And so again, it's that thing of people are beginning to talk about what our young people need us to talk about. And for all the horrible things of that series, and and many other, real experiences that we've had with real young people, there is a sense of, at least we're able to see and identify and talk through now. There's no nobody said, well, that's dystopian fiction. People have only said that's really relevant and informative. So to me, my mum watched it and she said, I don't know why I need to watch that. I know what it's like. Well, she doesn't know about the emojis, does she? But she does understand that children are under an immense amount of pressure. And she's not raising children right now. And I think that we are further ahead in terms of understanding the mental health needs of our young people than we realize. Certainly we in this room. I think it's a really, really relevant addition to the conversation. James, what were your thoughts about where your young people are up to right now?
Yeah. So I had something that Dee said about a student going into the higher level. I had a good moment with the student. They actually dropping into the for them.
No,
I could
James,
see.
I missed what the good moment was because your Wi-Fi glitched out. Please say the good moment again.
So the student actually dropped down to foundation, which is better because I could see the relief on their face because it's like they've got all these other GCSEs that they do. Not everything's centered around maths that I teach. You've got to balance everything out in life. I could see the relief on her face that she dropped down to the foundation level. It's more manageable for everybody. It's been good that we've gone through the process with the parents to set that expectation that you can't go from you're at level zero. If we started sort of at level zero, we can't to get to the higher level might have been too much. But it's just a bit of a relief. But the only problem is the school is she's on going into the foundation paper, but the school is still teaching her the higher level stuff, and I'm like, this poor girl's just uh, getting so many mixed things thrown at her.
Let's dig into that. That's oh, don't go on, don't go on. So, is there something about communication and alignment there?
Yeah, I think that the school have been she's had like loads of teachers in the school over the years, and and they've been struggling in the whole class. That's what I've been told, and I've been told by the parents as well. That people are sort of struggling with all the higher level in that class because they've had a very disruptive environment on that. But for me, if I was in that situation, I wouldn't know whether I'm coming or going, what to work on, how how to go about it.
So let's talk more about those disruptive environments then. Um, how to manage them, how to understand where they're coming from, what we could be doing better. To go back to MJ's reference to adolescence, in the second episode, the police officers go and interrogate the students inside the school. They spend the day in the
Yeah.
school. And there's a real sense of the way that it's recorded, the way that it's filmed. You get a real sense of closing in as they move around the school, and that sense of desperation and urgency and reactiveness that many of us have experienced actually walking through school corridors. It's not always like that, but sometimes it can be. And the police officer said right at the end, this doesn't feel like learning, it feels like a holding pen. Now, many of my children have struggled in classrooms where the behavior is disruptive and they haven't been able to learn. And I think what James has just pointed to there, teachers are overwhelmed because children aren't engaged. There are so many societal themes sitting behind that we're not going to approach now, but it does make it important for us to understand that if our young people that we're working with are sitting in disruptive classrooms, we need to factor that into the work that we do. And many, many times I speak with parents who just don't realize how difficult that classroom environment can be all day long. You know, I definitely wasn't like that in my schooling, but it is definitely part of most children's experience right now.
I
James, go ahead.
agree.
Oh, go ahead, MJ.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. At the moment, I'm actually doing some tuition in a school, and it is it's a non-selective school because obviously in Kent it's either non-selective or it's a grammar school. It is one of the better non-selective schools, and it is just like the school that was in that program where it is very difficult and you hear people shouting down the corridors and yeah, it is very much like a holding pen pet. But what I do, and I factor this into the tuition, is I find out what the classroom situation is like. And I have one student who happens to be in a grammar school, and he's been one of the instigators of some of the disruption in the past. So the fact that he hasn't learnt any of the content. And I started working with him over a year ago, and we've now got to the stage where he knows all of the content, but he's in a very difficult situation where if his whole character changes within the classroom, he's going to end up being alienated by his friends. And so I've said to him, that might be the case. You might have to act differently within the classroom environment, but when you come home, it's a different situation. Your peers are not going to see you. And I've given you all these resources, and you've been doing the tuition. They don't see you, and you know that you've got to catch up. And he has. So he's still probably behaving, not, chatting and what have you, but he hasn't, he can't sort of all of a sudden just turn into a SWAT because of,
Oh, good word. Really good word. I saw that you were pointing to it's not cool to learn in that classroom environment, right? And this
yeah.
kid has a persona that means that he can't turn into a SWAT, which of course is a really loaded phrase. So that piece around you giving him a quiet place to actually concentrate on the learning and not have to perform becomes really, really interesting. I also wanted to know because when you discussed the shouting in the corridors, I was thinking about the sensory element. So we know that our young people are
Yeah, that's a different school that I was talking about, not the one that he's in.
okay. I want to think about the sensory input. I don't know. I do think that our young people are more sensory aware than they ever have been before. Certainly, it's closely aligned. Hypo and hypersensitivity are closely aligned with ASD diagnoses, but
Yeah.
they can sit by themselves. And really, what we're saying is, I struggle in loud noises. I struggle in strong smells, or there's just this sense of I feel overwhelmed. It's getting to me.
Hmm.
So, what are you doing in your tutoring to think about that sensory overload that your young people might be experiencing in their day-to-day lives? Go ahead, James.
So for me, I feel like the kids sometimes just need a place they can be quiet and just chill out. And actually, it's nice to say nothing for 5, 10 minutes while we do some tasks.
Some space, isn't it?
Hmm.
It's the way you said it. You said it. You sort of made space in the way you said it's nice to be quiet. That made it really palpable. And I can really really see that the combination between the sort of the ease and the positivity together. There's one more question that I want to dive into today, if you don't mind, and that is my brain. My brain doesn't like this.
Oh, I've
My
had that.
brain, I can't trust my brain. I'm not good with tasks. I like to study, right? My brain. This is new. 12 years ago, we did not all talk about our brains. Thoughts? Do you agree?
You have to alter the tasks accordingly, I think, break them down.
Strategies. I'm talking about this language of talking about our brains, and our young people are doing it constantly.
It's
Have you
probably
really
because they,
seen that?
yeah, I've
Go on, MJ.
quite often. Um, I think it's because it's information overload because of the world that we live in.
Yeah,
They can't process it all. But if you
yeah,
think what's going on, we're going from one website or whatever, one platform to another, and there are infinite places you can get information from. And when I tutor and say what I say, don't go. You only need you need my resources. You need a vision. Do not go anywhere else. This is sufficient
podcast.
for you to
Yeah,
pass your GCSEs. Don't go
nice.
off on a tangent and try and find something else because it's just going to be a waste of time.
Okay, so you're saying there's loads of content out there and helping them to narrow their vision so that they don't get distracted and do
Yeah.
achieve their goals is really, really important guidance. Um, I took one of mine to a new therapist this week, and she was explaining the brain. And she said, "Oh, I don't know all the bits." But she was describing, I think, the prefrontal cortex. And then she was saying, and underneath, you've got the help me, limbic system, amygdala, all the bits. And she was really sort of articulating and describing the mechanics of the brain. Whereas traditionally, we've always spoken about the mind. I think that there's a better understanding of neurology. And I think that that's affecting our day to day language. I think that in addition to the content that we're creating, which apparently, I mean, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago that we exceeded the amount of content that had been created in all of history. Yeah. And it just continued exponentially since then. So we've got a ton of content out there. We've got this better understanding of neuroscience than ever before. I mean, we've known for a decade that was going to be the frontier in scientific development. And we've got AI, which is then taking what the brain's doing and doing it better, faster, cleverer, and more accessible. It's a really strange moment. It's a brain breaking moment, and I and it's springtime, and that makes it an interesting moment to reflect on what's going on. James said immediately right at the beginning, he said, "I'm doing fine. I'm better than I was, and I'm enjoying being in the moment." MJ said, "I know what I've got to do. I know where I'm going next." Dee said, "Nowadays I do my work because I know I help people." And all of those things are only true if we're sort of engaging with the landscape and what education, learning, and raising young people feels like today. Dee, what are your thoughts? We're doing closing thoughts now.
I'm it's interesting picking up on this our knowledge in neuroscience. It was mentioned in a podcast I heard recently about how far we've come with it so quickly with our understanding of the brain. And through and QT and the sessions that Jack McGill has run and other people have run about this, about teaching me about how my brain works. And that's been a really valuable resource for me to help my students understand better how their brain responds, especially those who deal with anxiety and are seeing that they're seeing what happens when they're anxious, but not really understanding why it's happening. And by helping them understand why their brain is doing what it's doing, that in some respects they don't have some control over it, but there are things they can do to make life better. That those aspects have been huge for me. So the coaching that I've been exposed to and then been trained in, and then this idea, this better understanding of what the environment is then making my brain do, and being able to impart that in an understandable way to my young people has been a real step forward for me over the last 12 months, I think.
I also really feel like it's where educators need to be. I spoke with a teacher this week who said, "I'm just not trained to understand what they're going through." And that's not okay anymore. We have to have these skills because this is what our young people need. And the confidence that you come across with is because you've been accessing that information that helps you be that person that they need. James, closing thoughts?
Um, really good. It's been really good to reflect on everyone's ideas here. I think, um, but yeah, I think it's. I think that kids need more support ultimately. It's really tough. Tough right now what's happening, politically, what you're getting thrown at, you know, for young men young men and boys in particular, it's a real sense of pressure on them. With social media, all the information on there. You have to be rich, you have to have ab muscles to be anything, to be recognized at all. Which two things that are nice to have, but it's not the everything. That what you're doing is enough, even if it's small steps of change. So I try to put that across to my students.
That's so beautiful. I think it's really, really helpful that you brought in messages that men are receiving. And I also feel that I feel that you come across with this health that is clearly powerful for your young people. And I bless you that you should continue in good health because of the ripple effects it creates. MJ, what are your closing thoughts?
I think that we have to understand that change is happening at a faster rate than we ever did. And if we can try and keep up with that, it's difficult. I mean, my children are in their 20s and they don't know what's going on with teenagers. So it is difficult, and they're being pulled in all directions.
Since we're
And,
frontline workers,
and
you can
education,
understand how
mainstream.
your teenagers don't know, your 20-year-olds don't know and don't necessarily need to know. Well, actually, one of yours is in education, isn't she? But
Social
we
worker,
need to know because we're working with them.
yeah, social services she's in.
Oh, yes.
Um, but yeah, she still wouldn't know.
No,
Um,
no. Well, social services is a whole other subject, and I am not brave enough to approach it here. But I will say that support, accessing support is extremely hard right now. Before we opened this recording, Dee was saying that she just drove down to the hospital to ask for the appointment. And I was saying that I brought my sick child in and plopped her on the reception and wouldn't leave until I got the appointment because it's very, very hard to access support nowadays. And yet, here we are. And yet, here we are, skilling up to make sure that we are the people who bring bright spots into the lives of our young people. And not to underestimate that, not to overstep those boundaries, to know when to signpost, to know where our, places to be are and where they're not, but to understand the impact that we can have. MJ, you used the phrase keeping up. And I think that alongside keeping up is being selective. You said with your students, you don't need to access all the content in the world. I'm giving you what you need. That sense of I know what I need that you used earlier is probably going to be our guiding light over here. There's so much going on and it's so complicated and overwhelming.
yeah, I
But if
meant
we,
as far as their stress levels was concerned, yeah,
oh, I'm sorry, I thought you meant in
yeah,
terms of the rate of change.
no, I meant,
The,
yeah, as far as the stresses that they are under. But no,
yeah,
I would keep it, I wouldn't send them off in every direction.
yeah. I actually want to go and do gardening, to be honest. Do you know what I mean? More time in nature, more time walking the dog, less time on Netflix after you've watched Adolescence. Thank you so much for bringing that in there. I think that was really timely. It is springtime. Um, so let's smile and enjoy it and point our young people and the people that they rely on towards positivity and hope. Thank you so, so much for this beautiful session. Thank you, Dee. Thank you, MJ. And thank you, James. Have a great day.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Julia. Nice to
Bye.
see you all. Take care. Bye.
Cheers. Bye. Bye.